Welcome to Just Minding My Business Radio, where we are moving at the speed of God, learning what we didn't know we didn't know. I'm your host, Ida Crawford, so grab a pen and paper and get ready for information that you can use. Welcome to Just Minding My Business. I hope your day was full of joy. I'm your host, Ida Crawford.
And I'm Ruth Haskins, your co-host.
Coming to the mic today is Miss Deborah Wiggins, who is the founder and owner of Supreme ASCEN, which is a homemade quilted home decor products company. Deborah started Supreme ASCEN in 2010 and has enjoyed the journey of making a beloved artistic craft an experience for others to enjoy. As an award-winning quilter, designer, and creator, Deborah enjoys adding an artistic flavor to the cozy elements that make a home unique. So welcome, Deborah, to the show. I want to hear all about this because I just love quilts. I really do. So tell me how all of this came about.
Well, it came about, I started sewing when I was 9, and, of course, I was sewing garments, etc., and I was in church one day, and I noticed that the church ladies in the corner were gathered, and, of course, that always makes one nervous. And they came over and they asked me to help with the craft bazaar. And one of them looked at me and said, you know, I've seen how you sew. You should be a quilter. So, of course, you can't tell church ladies no. So I tried it, and she was absolutely right. I've been hooked ever since.
Wow, that's interesting. And it's so unique because you don't meet many people that's doing quilting.
Quilting is actually coming back. It's having and has had a resurgence. More and more, you're seeing quilters come about and express themselves. So it's a lot of fun when we are at various shows, etc. We get a lot of quilters who come up and ask questions and want to share because quilters are sharers. Remember the quilting bees, and everybody would get together and put a quilt together. So quilting is a very sharing experience, and it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Okay, so how do you market your quilts?
Well, we do it multiple ways. We do craft shows. We do about 20 to 23 of those a year. We operate in 6, 7 states. We are also online, have a website. We write blogs. We are on Instagram and Facebook, and we meet a whole lot of people.
I'm sure. So what's your website?
Website is www.supremeaccents.com. And on the website, you can enjoy the blogs. You can see where what shows we will be attending and where we'll be. There's examples of our work. And sometimes every once in a while we even write about a particular craft show we've been to.
Okay, I'm on your website now. Oh, my God. This is absolutely gorgeous.
We try. We try very hard to provide a variety of handmade quilted products for your home, while at the same time only offering a limited supply because we want your home to be unique, and I actually absolutely positively enjoy coming up and creating things new. So every year we have new products and new designs and new colors, etc.
Do you do any custom quilting?
We do. Yes, we do. We do custom quilting, things that are usually within the line. Sometimes we get customers who come to us with specific things. It's funny, about a month ago, a lady came up to the booth, and she had some fabrics that she absolutely loved and wanted that incorporated into her living room. So we discussed that, and I'm working on that for her now. So,
okay.
We try very hard to give everyone an experience of cozy in their home. That's what we're striving for. That's what we would like everyone to have. And I find I'm from an IT background, believe it or not, and I find that the more technology there is, the more we want to feel more cozy and comfy in our homes.
Wow, that's interesting. I'm from an IT background as well. So that's interesting. Yeah. I know I like the cozy. I've got like a corner in my family room, and there's nothing there but blankets and different types of quilts. So when I'm watching TV, I can just pick one and cozy up.
Yeah, and as much as you enjoy your wonderful TV, you still want to cozy up in a quilt. So, I think they go hand in hand, actually.
So do I, because even in summertime,
yes,
I still use my quilt.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes. Some of these patterns, I'm looking at a pattern on your website of the smiley face, and with the two eyes, look like a leopard type. This is a pillow, actually.
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. My mother works with me, as well as my daughter, my husband, but my mother does a fantastic job of creating whimsical pillows. So she actually designs those, and we produce those for folks who like them. So we have hamburgers and all kinds of wonderful pillows that you see there.
I have a question about the quilts themselves, your large bedroom quilts and whatnot. And I'd ask you if you do custom work. Do you have anyone coming to you who was, specific idea of creating an heirloom quilt? And that's what people passed on, way back when they used to have hope chest.
Yes.
That was one of the things that got passed on from a grandmother to a granddaughter.
Yes.
And some of the ones that I've seen they're outstanding. The craftsmanship is just amazing, and they've lasted, some of them, literally for 100, 150 years.
Yes,
so
and
what is your take on that type of work?
That type of work is actually, I believe, at the heart of quilting. Quilting is something that can be created from the heart. And it can be created from nostalgia and memories. You can take the clothes from when your daughter or your son were little, and you can remember a time that maybe you went to the amusement park or you even went to church, and you can incorporate that in that quilt. And with that quilt, you can pass that on to generations, or you can savor that feeling yourself and that memory. And that's the one nice thing about quilts themselves. They're very personal. They can be passed down. They actually get more valuable as time goes on, believe it or not. Not only monetarily, but also from the heart. My experiences with this quilt. It's a cool summer day, and I can snuggle up with this and read a book, or I want to walk around because it's cold and snowy, as it is today, in my fluffy foot slippers, and then I can, go grab my quilt with some hot chocolate and feel very comfortable and warm. And I can share those experiences with my children and my grandchildren, whether it's in that quilt or I can tell them I remember when. Quilts are lasting, and they not only give you your current cozy feeling of cozy and cozy experience, but you can also share that. Custom work, I tend to do custom work at the owner's request. someone can give me a call or they can meet me at a show and say, yes, could you possibly make this quilt for me? And some of them are elaborate and some of them aren't. It just depends on what it is that that particular customer wants. There are quilting artists out there who spend hours upon hours and months and upon months in creating exquisite art. And then there are quilters who are just beginners and just beginning to learn how to do it and, may be able to put a quilt together in a week. But no matter what, it's still coming from the heart.
Mm. I think what's also so interesting, thank you for that, is that so many quilts tell stories. And I know there is, I'll say that there has been talk of the fact that even during slavery, when we were able to make quilts, very often within that quilt, and it was all rags put together, but there were different things that were put in there that were literally messages.
Yes.
That could be read by people who knew what was going on.
Yes, it was.
So I think go ahead, please.
I'm sorry. Yes, it was used by the Underground Railroad to actually signal to people, is it safe to be here? There are books written on the subject, and it's fascinating because the quilts, once again, offered comfort. If a particular quilt was out and it had a particular block on it or a particular design, then it was safe to go there. Or it was unsafe to go there because another type of quilt was out. So, yes, quilts have had a history. They've been around for centuries, just centuries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For sure. And a lot of times people think of it as a grandparent-type craft because that's where I seen it with my grandparents doing quilts, and my mom does quilts as well. And but for you to take this art and just move it into a business, and it's very unique. Very unique.
Well, thank
you. And I know
other
people do that, but you're my first person that I've met that is actually doing this as a business.
It was actually, it started, like I said, with my church ladies, and kind of started as a hobby. And the more I do it, the more I find people really like it. And so we've worked very hard to find our niche, our style, our brand, as it were, and try to offer that sort of thing to all of our customers each year, year after year after year, because tastes change, and people want something different and something new. So we try to provide that. So in some instances, we have things that look very traditional, and in other instances, we have things that are very, very modern.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends on, what one wants in their home. But through it all, I still tend to think that, people just want to feel comfortable and warm in their home, and quilts provide that. No matter how you want to decorate your home, or no matter how often you're in it, whether you're in it every day, all day, or whether you're coming home from work, that comfy, cozy feeling is something that I think everyone wants at home. And quilts provide that.
I agree.
Yes, I agree.
Could you absolutely, perhaps, I know I've always thought about quilting, and I've tried it, because I enjoy sewing, used to it anyway, enjoyed sewing by hand.
Yeah.
But for our listening audience, could you kind of describe how to get started if this is something that you think you might want to do? What materials would be needed, and what would be a simple pattern, something simple that they could create, even if it's just a little 4x4?
Well, actually, my favorite patch is what's known as a 9 patch. It is what I started with, and to this day, I absolutely love it. I think somehow I do a 9 patch every year. They're very versatile, and they're very easy. Okay? The 9 patch is actually 3 squares on top, 3 squares in the middle, and 3 squares at the bottom, and that creates what's known as a block. You can range the colors in that 9-patch any way you want and put them all together and you get a quilt. I actually recommend, believe it or not, going to either a quilt shop or a secondhand shop. And if you go to the secondhand shop, I would move on over to the men's department and pick up 7 shirts that are 100% cotton, and that's a great way to get started. Or you could go to a quilt shop and have the ladies there help you find cotton fabric and just start with what's known as a 9-patch. If you're good at sewing, you can certainly look in any number of magazines, or you can schedule a class either at that quilt shop, or sometimes they have what's known as quilt guilds. And there are people there to start, but I would just start with a simple 9-patch.
Okay.
And go from there.
What is the Quilt Guild all about?
A quilt guild is a group of quilters who get together, usually monthly, and they share their experiences and they share their techniques. And a lot of times once again, quilting is social. So they get together and, they talk about their lives and they talk about what it means to be a quilter. I'm having, difficulty trying to figure out, what color goes with this, and you have people there who you can chat with and, help you find your color or your design. They talk about going to trips about quilting and going to quilt shows. I've actually spoken at guilds and get a lot of questions about how I quilt, because quilting is a very personal experience. So, the way that I do something might be different than the way that someone else. So we get to share the experiences about how to become a better quilter, or, how do you make a particular thing. Mm-hmm. So there are lots and lots of guilds in the area. Whether it's this area or any other area, because we go to quite a few states, and we talk to a lot of ladies who belong to quilt guilds.
And it's very popular in Pennsylvania, because I live right down the street from a quilt shop, and so it's very, very popular in the area where I live.
And the one nice thing about a quilt shop is when you go to a quilt shop, you get what I call the old-fashioned service, where you get somebody there who will take a long time and help you find just what you're looking for. Or if you need a question answered, you can go back to the quilt shop and say, hey, I'm having, difficulty doing this, or, can you help me? And they'll help you, and you don't need to make a purchase. So once again, quilting goes back to tradition, where, you can go and get some help, and it also can be very contemporary with whatever selections you have, or, how you want to make that quilt. Hand quilting is still popular. People do that today, and you can go all the way to machine quilt, where everything you do, you stitch by machine. So it's a very, very type of artwork.
Mhm. And I think it's like any craft. I think it's very therapeutic as well, because I crochet, or I used to crochet, and I really was really into it. Mm-hmm. And I found it to be very therapeutic for me.
It's a form of expression, and it is. I mean, you get to express yourself in your work. You get to do it at the rate that you want. You get to show whom you are and express that. And as in any art form, you use your hands. And it is, for me, is extremely therapeutic. For me, it is a joy, because I get to actually be creative, as well as, yes, there is the business end of what I do, but at the end of the day, I get to show my creativity and express that, and that's what makes it nice.
Mhm. Now, let me just ask you, the younger generation, how are you connecting with them in terms of being able to sort of pass this craft down?
Well, quilting, because quilting is generational, has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, you present them with something that they can relate to. So my daughter, who is just beginning to, start her new home and is trying to find, how she wants to live. She's at that age right now. She actually helps with the quilting, and we create things for her home, which is very different than what my mother, who also works in the business, is very different than what she would create. So what we're creating for her and her generation are things that are much more colorful, I guess, not quite as busy, much more clean, much more urban, as opposed to the more traditional designs. And that's the nice thing about quilting. It can adjust to whatever generation that you want. So you can actually get them interested in, how do I create something nice for myself and something nice for my home that's me. Quilting allows that. It moves with generations. It's very fluid in that. When we're picking out fabric, whether it's personally or for the business, all three of us get to sit and decide on what it is that we're going to do, because all three of us come from different generations, and we want to be able to cover, all types of customers. So in terms of design and in terms of color, we do that. And my daughter is very helpful in making sure that we stay current and relevant. But, the younger generations, they love the quilts too.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them, I tell you, sometimes I'm at a show and I'll get a request for a repair because her grandmother, that individual's grandmother made that, and how can it get repaired? Because they still want to hold on to the tradition of grandma, and at the same time, they want to get something for themselves. So, it just it gets passed down. The quilts get passed down, the art gets passed down, but it also stays contemporary and modern, and that's the part that's nice.
I think that's interesting. First of all, it's your mother, you, and your daughter working together, and then you're saying that young people recognize that this is something that grandma made. I want to make sure it stays intact. Can you repair it? I find that very, very interesting. Because so often we say that, every generation goes its own way, but quilting is one of those things that seems to bind generations. I have a piece of my own. It's something that my grandmother made from my mother. It's not a quilt. It's a Afghan, so it's crocheted. But it's probably just about 100 years old now, because my grandmother made it for my mother. And within that, what my grandmother did was to take my mother's band cap and scarf, which she had crocheted for her. And when my mother went away to school, my grandmother took that apart and she crocheted into this Afghan. And it really does bind us, because I have it now and I'm planning on passing it on to my niece, which would be my grandmother's great-great-great-granddaughter. So it's interesting how, I don't know, there's something about things that are handmade that have tremendous emotional, and it's not even sentimental, it's deeper than that. Like you said it at the beginning, it's something about the heart.
Yes.
It's a heart connection.
Yes, it is.
And I think that's just awesome. And I'm so glad to hear that young people aren't looking at it and saying, oh, that's real old-fashioned, that's old stuff, or old school, as people would want to say. But they have a heart for it. And I find that very satisfying to hear.
It is. And we get very, like little ones, okay, and teenagers, and and the list goes on. But it's real interesting about how they want to keep that baby blanket that they had, and they kind of fold it up, and maybe they don't want to play with it, but they want it to stay there, okay? Yes. And when they become older, I had a customer who said, this was my baby blanket, and I want to use it. What do I need to do, because I want to keep it? So, after giving her some advice on what to do with it, she came back later and says, I'm using it and I love it and thank you. So, you can hang them up on the wall as art, or you can snuggle with them, or you can put them on the table, and the list goes on and on. But you're right, it's a heartfelt piece. She did not want to get rid of that baby blanket, as old as she was. She wanted to keep it. And you think about it, Grandma made this, and this is a piece of, my mom, or this is a piece of my grandmother or my, special aunt. They actually took the time to make this, and I want to keep that.
Yeah, very interesting. No matter how sophisticated we become, no matter how far advanced we become as a civilization, it always comes back to the heart.
Yes, it does. It really does. And no matter what we do, we always want to feel the connection with people who love us and with people who care about us. And quilts do that. They really do. We have a quilt that one of my church members had that his grandma. Now, I'm trying to think. I guess he may be one or two generations before me, but he has a quilt that his grandmother and his mother made. And it's heavy. And it has layers upon layers of, you can see that, that used to be a coat, or, maybe that was, a piece of a drapery or something like that. And he still has that. And he's not, he wants to keep that, and it's on display, in his home, because he remembers, and he talks about, his mom, and he looks at that very fondly and says, I remember when they were sitting around the table and chatting and making, that quilt when he was very young. And he has that memory, and that memory is associated with, that quilt and all the good things that, happened to him, and his experiences with them all come when he looks at that quilt. And it's quite a spectacular piece, actually. It's really quite lovely.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
I think those are the ones that I really do enjoy, is when someone can tell me the story behind the quilt. Like you said, a piece of coat, or maybe a pair of pants, or something, a child's dress, an infant's dress, or something that's sewn into it. And they can walk you through it and say, well, this is from this and this is from that.
Yes.
I was this old when and it just makes it. I guess I like the story of quilt. I love the stories that are built into quilts. That to me is fascinating. That we could take something so ordinary, an old dress that maybe you were wearing when your grandmother was wearing when she was courting your grandfather, and that story's been passed down. And it makes for tremendous memories and impact. And I know every once in a while they will have quilting exhibitions. And if you know of anything that's coming up, I know many in our listening audience would love to know where they could go to see a quilting exhibit.
I know that I'm in the Columbia area, and there's a quilting exhibit every spring at the Presbyterian Church on Route 108, and I believe it's in April or May of every year. Certainly, there are quilting exhibits online. Of course, you can always come to the show and see what's there. Quilt shops always can tell you where there are various quilt shows in the area. There's a very popular one in Lancaster in June and July. It has a lot of quilts if you like that style of quilting. As a matter of fact, they have a lot of styles of quilting at that show. I try to go to that show myself every once in a while, because I don't get to go to as many shows, mainly because I'm in a show myself. And the times sometimes conflict, but I do follow them, on Instagram and Facebook and that sort of thing. But certainly, please send me an email to my email address, and I can certainly look that up and send anyone any information that they would like on where you can go to a particular quilt show. And they have quilt shows all sizes, from the very large where the quilts eventually end up in a museum to, local ones like the one at the Presbyterian Church, where the work is just spectacular, just absolutely spectacular.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So how can our listening audience get in touch with you?
They can send an email to Supreme Accents, Deborah, Debra Wiggins at supremeaccents.com, or they can go on our website and fill in one of the forms, and we certainly respond and make you aware of what's going on locally, or they can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, where we share that information as well.
Okay. Absolutely. I'm just feeling all comfy. I'm sitting here right now with my quilt over my legs. So I'm like really relaxed, and I think with the quilting, it's like you said before, it's all about the heart, it's memories, it's history, it's legacy, it's all of that wrapped up in one. And there's not too many arts that create that all in one piece like that.
Yeah, and you can touch it. You can experience it. You can feel it and wrap it around yourself if that's what you want to do. And that's what makes quilts unique as far as I'm concerned. They bring you joy, they bring you memories, they bring you love, and they bring you beauty. And as you said, all wrapped into one. It's really quite an experience to make one and to even have one. I mean, if you don't make them because, you're not a quilter, that's fine. But certainly acquiring one will also give you that feeling. There's always a way of making a quilt a tradition in your home. Whether, a future tradition, we certainly, get requests about, I have these things. Can you make a quilt for me in this? And we work with our customers to make that happen. And one of my other church ladies will help me sometimes if, the requests come in kind of heavy. We do have help, to help us make those custom quilts, what the experience that particular customer has. So, but yeah, I absolutely love them. I've been quilting now for so many years. It's going to date me, but over 15 years now, and it never gets old. It just never gets old.
Yeah, and
I love the idea that you do custom quilting. That is so awesome. And I know there are people right now who are beginning to think, I never thought about a quilt as a gift. I never thought about having, what did you say? You said something about a tradition, starting a tradition.
Yes.
What an awesome idea. And I'm really glad that our listening audience heard you say that, because it may give them an idea of creating a tradition in their family. They can come to you, bring some odd pieces that maybe have meaning for their different family members, and start working on building that quilt. I think that's a beautiful idea.
They make wonderful wedding gifts. They make wonderful graduation gifts. They they're a great Christmas tradition. Who gets the Christmas quilt this year? And understand, quilts come in all different shapes and sizes too, right? So certainly you have the one that you can put on your bed or throw across your sofa, but you can also, as I said, put one on a table to, highlight that table, or put one on a wall to show the actual artwork in the wall. And believe it or not, it makes the home feel a lot more cozy. A lot warmer, a lot more comfortable. Just that extra piece on, a piece of furniture, whether it's a chair or, a table or a wall. But certainly we get a lot of requests for wedding gifts for quilts. One particular person wanted something where people could write on the quilt, during the wedding, and so that would be their wedding memory. So quilts can be used for a lot of different things. That's why I love them so much, because they can just be everywhere and do almost anything.
Well, with that thought in mind, and so many people out there, what is this, January, planning their weddings, could you give our listening audience your information one more time?
You can reach us at www.supremeaccents.com. We are also on Facebook as Supreme Accents, and you can reach me on my email address, Deborah, Debra Wiggins, with an S, at supremeaccents.com.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Well, we truly appreciate you sharing your gift and your art and the love that it evolves around what you do. And, as you stated before, it's a heartfelt craft. It's just no other way to explain it. It's all about the heart and the memories and all that good stuff and love.
Absolutely.
So we truly thank you, and I'm honored to meet you because I have never met anybody that actually does quilting as a business. I know people that do it for pleasure, but not as a business. So thank you for this opportunity to hear how the quilting actually can be a lucrative business.
Speaking of which, as a business, Deborah, would you let our listening audience also know where they can come to see your work? Because you said you do a number of shows. What shows do you have lined up probably for the spring?
For the spring, we will be in New Jersey at the ASCEN New Jersey Expo Center is what I believe it's called. And we'll be there the first weekend in March. We'll then move on down to Richmond to be at the Craftsman Classic at the Richmond Raceway. That's the second weekend in March 9th through the 11th. Then we move up to the Philadelphia area at the Greater Philadelphia Expo Center the third week in March. Then we get to go to Dulles Expo Center, Chantilly, Virginia, the fourth week in March. And then we move on over to Timonium in Baltimore at the Maryland County Fairgrounds. And that's the third weekend in April. So those are third or fourth weekend in April, I think. Those are the shows that come to mind right now. We do go to other shows, and if you go to our website, we'll be updating that calendar in about a week or so, as soon as we, get the final shows for the year mapped out. But you can always go to our website and see where we're going to be. There are links to how to get to that particular show. So you can go to the website, www.supremeaccents.com, and you can see where we're going to be, and you can meet us there. Come by and look at not only quilting, but also the other work that's at those particular shows. And, of course, always reach out to us and go on the website. We're beginning to start a gallery because customers are sending us pictures of how they use them, and we want to share those pictures. So there'll be a gallery on the website shortly.
Excellent. Okay. That sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm looking forward to seeing you possibly at Timonium.
Yeah.
And then you'll also be at Gaithersburg, right?
Yes, we'll be at the Gaithersburg show as well.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be there. We'll be in what they call the barns, believe it or not.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll be outside, but
okay.
The shows are a lot of fun. They really are.
Yes, they are.
Come by and, we love chatting. We love talking to customers and, helping them, and, it's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun.
Okay, well, definitely keep us in the loop so that we can get it on our calendar as well, because So you're saying you're going to be in Timonium in April?
Yes.
Okay.
The fourth week in April, we will be in Timonium. I'm trying to find that actual date because I'm not very good at giving you an actual date. The 26th, 27th, and 28th of April, we will be in Timonium.
Wow, okay. That sounds awesome. I'm definitely going to make it a point to come to either the Gaithersburg or the Timonium to check out your work.
Oh, absolutely. And if there's something in particular that you're looking for, send us an email or, leave a message, and we'll see if we can make sure that we have something like that for you. A lot of times people have something in mind. If we can bring it, we can. We will. If we can't, then we'll work with you to get you what you'd like.
Okay.
Lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely.
Yes. Well, thank you again, Miss Deborah. We appreciate
Thank you. It was a lot of fun chatting with you. As you can tell, I can go on and on and on. So.
And that's fine, because we can, too.
Yes, we can. That's true. We have to catch hold of ourselves sometimes, because when we speak to people like yourself, there's so much information that we don't know about. Right. You're the expert. You have the knowledge. You have the experience. And it's fascinating. It's just information so worth having. Mm-hmm. Our listening audience have learned something about quilting itself. They've learned about the fact that it's not just something that goes on your bed. They can use it as wall art, as home decoration. And many people have never thought about that. Their idea of a quilt is something that goes on the bed. Not necessarily so. It's an art form that can be used in so many different places. So this is the kind of information we really enjoy bringing to our listening audience. So thank you so very, very much for taking this time to be with us.
Yeah,
thank you. It was a lot of fun chatting with you. It really was.
Yeah.
Likewise.
This show is brought to you by the amazing women of a Sister Circle Empowerment Network, ASCEN LLC, where we are never in competition, but always in collaboration, and our valued sponsors. Learn more about our sponsors and their services and membership in a Sister Circle, ASCEN LLC, at www.assistercircle.org. To learn about becoming a sponsor for Just Minding My Business Radio and how our marketing package benefits your company, please visit our website at www.assistercircle.org. Voiceovers by RCH VoiceWorks. Contact slvoiceworks8201@yahoo.com or call 443-620-4115.
Thank you for tuning in to Just Minding My Business Radio. I'm your host, Ida Crawford. We hope you enjoyed the show and appreciate you stopping by. Many blessings to you and yours.